to start off with?
I will introduce the topic again, of course, yes, so for our viewers later on, and for the audience. It's like actually like in a real TV show, you have a real live audience. It's great. We're a bit nervous here today at the RIC Hangout because we have a live audience. The topic, as announced, is we talk about whistleblowers, Edward Snowden, WikiLeaks, the latest case with Bradley Manning in the news. That's what we're going to talk about. Again, before we start talking, maybe you can introduce yourself briefly, what you do here, where you come from, and then you jump right into the topic. From left to right, let's start.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity actually. Well, I guess I'm the first one to start off. So, anyway, first things first, my name is Chik, and I'm from Bhutan. And this is my second year here. I'm actually studying philosophy, politics, and economics.
Right, thank you. And?
I'm Jonathan from Germany, and I'm studying IRD, also in my second year, as far as I know.
Keep track of, okay. Alright. Then yeah, thank you for coming, of course, for this, this was a topic not many people know about it, but many people don't really like to talk about it, especially here in Thailand. Then just to kick everything off, yesterday, WikiLeaks released data about Thailand. It actually released like 30 million emails that were controlled or viewed by national intelligence agencies. And so it's also happening here in Thailand, so it's actually a really good topic to talk about that. Now, just the first introduction before I ask you specific questions. What do you know about those whistleblowing thing that's known in the news? What have you heard? What's your first opinion? Then we will go discuss specific questions.
Alright, I know as much as everyone else that follows the news a little bit knows. Obviously the Edward Snowden case was covered really in abundance. And Bradley Manning with WikiLeaks a long time ago, Julian Assange, I heard about those ongoings. My initial stance on it was, first of all, that I was shocked about the extent of surveillance or intrusion in private matters by intelligence agencies is, or how far it actually goes. I didn't expect that. I also expected that nation states outside of the United States would be better able to protect leaks than they actually are after hearing about all this. However, when it becomes really technical with PRISM and those other programs that are ongoing, I struggle to really understand how it works technically. Still, I acknowledge it works, and I'm shocked. Still, I'm not quite sure about whether I would say that people that leak information are patriots or not. I mean, that's the question I'm trying to figure out in my mind myself still, and I'm not quite sure about it. I have my arguments on both sides.
That's actually interesting to hear in a few moments. Like, are they patriots, are they dangerous, or whatever? But first, your initial take on the whole issue.
Well, actually, in my own personal opinion, I think I was shocked. This is something big actually, and I've never come across such things. And technically speaking, like my friend said, I have a really limited knowledge about how it works.
Yeah, of course.
How it works, and the thing is that what you said earlier, it has come to Thailand, it's pretty close. So I'm just thinking okay, what will happen next? And how credible is the information? How credible?
Credibility, yeah. Right.
WikiLeaks,
Yeah.
the news they once it's online, it's inside the public domain, anybody can go through. The thing is that how, what do you say, credible? How authentic is the news is?
That's a good question actually. Always like, has any one of you ever been to WikiLeaks website?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And for me, it's like it's very hard actually to find something there when you see all those data like in a raw form, and yeah, you have to go through a lot of data and to come up with your own mind and your own opinion to find something there. Because they don't tell you that's bad or something. They just tell you here's the data, do something with that. So do you take time for yourself to check that out, or do you like prefer the outcome to read the outcome somewhere else?
I would say it is, they try to present the material in an objective manner,
Right.
which is very important because as soon as you draw subjective conclusions, then you have what actually you just mentioned, arbitrary statements which when you read the news, you never really can be sure, is it an objective source or not. So WikiLeaks probably tries to keep it as objective as possible. However, then for the layman, the common man, it is really hard to work his way through such long documents and texts and so on, and then find out what is really important and what is not.
Right.
But that counts not only for unofficial leaks, but also for if you look at national agencies that publish official reports, they keep them long, they keep them complicated, so nobody really feels like spending the time on reading it and trying to understand it. And I mean, it's basically keeping the population under control.
Right. that's a little bit rough, keeping the population under control, but of course
I didn't want to say keeping the people down or something like that. I wanted to express it.
But of course that's like somehow how people work, right? And that's not even like with official documents, it's also when you, let's say when you buy something online or when you sign up and you're like, I agree, I don't read this technical terms, like I don't read one page, like so when it comes to this WikiLeaks source, which you have to spend lots of time if you really want to see it for yourself. So that most people, they better might rely on news sources like a newspaper to actually publish that.
But even, I heard that, I don't know how far it's true, please correct me if I'm wrong, even the news sources, they gather information from WikiLeaks.
Yeah, no, sure. Of course, they will publish that, of course. That's what I'm trying to say, that the average person might not want to check WikiLeaks because it's like too much. They rather read the news article in the newspaper, and the newspaper then cites WikiLeaks.
Right, but then it's not in its raw objective form anymore, because they use it for argumentation. They use it in a more subjective way than the pure document.
Alright, so could you tell me, who legitimates the sort of editorial power, so to say, about the online posting?
Of what? Of news agencies?
Yes, the news. I'm talking about in terms of WikiLeaks.
Well, I would say it is, there's a legal framework as to what you are allowed to publish. You're only allowed to publish true statements and so on. But that is always really hard to trace back often,
Right.
And I mean, news agencies, papers, news channels on TV, official ones and so on, they all have their approach based on a certain paradigm or worldview they inherently have. And you have more conservative newspapers, you have more liberal newspapers. And for example, I follow Press TV on Facebook. It is an Iranian press organization. And I follow the Israeli Haaretz newspaper. And they constantly report on current ongoings, but in the information they give is that it varies from each other in a way that is you could say two completely different stories. Completely different.
But they're talking about the same incident,
But
for
they are
example.
talking about the same incident.
Yeah.
And what actually we should learn at university, especially in programs like PPE, B and IID and so on is to employ our own reasoning and based on the information we get, analyze from more than one source, and that way trying to find like the truth.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why, for example, in some classes here you learn how to actually then apply the knowledge to gain some wisdom. Just had to cite that now. But true, of course. But back to the whistleblowing thing. For example, then I want to hear your opinion. Yesterday, when WikiLeaks leaked those documents in Thailand, I read it on Facebook on WikiLeaks. Thailand documents leaked. 30 million emails with minor sensitive content, 100 emails with intermediate sensitive content, and 10 emails with like highly sensitive content. That's how they name it, like emails that contain threats or something. And I was like, that's interesting, and I shared it on my website, I shared it on my Facebook, and then I was thinking, last week, or 2 weeks ago, when people shared something that was not good for our country here, they got threatened, put in to be in prison, you go to jail. So I was thinking, I hope I can come to university today. Now my question is like, are you somehow like scared to express your opinion in public?
What context? In general?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I'm more careful
Yeah.
than before. Obviously, I'm not at home.
Right.
I'm not really familiar with well, I feel more and more familiar with how things work in Thailand, but I wouldn't say that I really know how the real extent of how everything works. I'm not familiar with it completely, so I take that into account, and I'm here somewhere far from home, and I try to be a little bit more careful. Definitely. That, however, often is obstructive. If you study social science, liberal environment is crucial. You need to be able to listen to different opinions, and you need to be able to express your opinion freely, even if it's factually wrong one. Actually, I feel we still have to face that, and we have to have a dialogue. And otherwise, social sciences doesn't really make sense, because if you just follow one doctrine, it doesn't produce anything new. It doesn't produce any new deductive reasoning, nothing. And that's why I'm considering to continue my studies probably somewhere else than in Asia.
Yes, I would totally agree with you, my friend. I'm being more cautious, actually. And at the same time, I'm questioning myself here. Like, okay, so this is something new, and is it really, like I said earlier, authentic, or is someone just trying to do it to grab sort of attention, or could be rumors? Yet to find out. But yeah, like I said, I'm trying to be more cautious, right, and trying to draw your own mind, so to say.
But I would also like to mention that censorship is an issue that is maybe more prevalent in certain areas of the world, but it is one that happens all over the place. And even in Germany, I feel we have an issue with that, and have difficulties to deal with it. Historically, for example, we have it's really difficult to criticize mainstream historical theory. Not that I would say it is good to do that or is right to do that, but I feel the dialogue has to exist, and criticism should be listened to, definitely. Or very recently, I don't know if you have heard about that, a German rapper used certain names of politicians in his songs and so on, and was attacked from various sides, and that shocked me. In a liberal democracy, as we have it in Europe, it shocked me that there is such an outcry, even in an art form, to express whether it is stupid or not. That is, everyone should think about that themselves and then make his judgment. But I believe it is, and I think that's something that the Americans do very well. You are actually able in the United States to express your opinion. You can write books that are really polarizing. You can publish them that will not be censored and so on.
Alright, that's now perfect bridge to what I was looking for, to come back to the States, for example, to the country in the free world. The country in the free world sentenced the guy who leaked data to WikiLeaks to 35 years in prison. Happened, I think, 2 or 3 days ago. This sentence was at least made public. And what do you know about this case? Do you know about this case? And what's your thought about this? So, just to wrap it up briefly, but if you have deeper information, then feel free to do so. I will try to provide some more information as well. But there's Private from the American Army, Private Manning. He leaked data to WikiLeaks, the biggest amount of data ever. I think it was in 2010 or 11. I think in 2010, right? And then he got betrayed by a friend. He thought was a friend, and so the American government got hold of him. So they get to know who leaked the information. And now the process has come to an end, and Private Manning has been sentenced to 35 years in prison for espionage.
First of all, as you say, he's a private.
Right.
That is one of the lowest ranks, if not the lowest rank.
I think he was private first class, and now he's got deducted from the first class. But yeah, so he's.
That is like as if when I served in the army in Germany and did the basic thing. As if I would have found something on a computer and would have leaked it, even maybe in youthful irresponsibility or not thinking about it or something, and then they sentenced me to 35 years in prison. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. If he would have served in the army for 10, 15 years and would have been really familiar with how everything works and would have swore an oath. Okay, you swear an oath anyway.
That's the thing that comes into play when the judge ruled. So it doesn't matter. You swear the oath to protect your country and not to tell secrets and whatsoever. So that's why they say, hey, you broke this oath. You signed the paper and you work for the army. So shut up and do what we tell you.
Well, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. However, I also believe if you give your word, it is important to stand by it. So what he did in looking at it from that direction probably is wrong. Whether he did it in good intentions or not, if you give a promise, you stick with the promise.
Okay, what do you think?
Yes, I think again, like my friend said, it is to all with your intentions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess by going online, I mean, if he did it with bad intention, then I guess since he promised, so he has to stick with the promise. So I don't know, I'm kind of gibberish actually. Sorry, kind of lost.
No problem.
Yeah, like my friend said, he has to stay with promise. Doesn't matter what.
Yeah, but then, you promise your friend, hey, I'm gonna stand by you, I help, and then you find out, my friend is doing something really bad. And you still keep standing by your friend.
And it is also a question of interpretation. If you look at the oath and how you interpret the oath, you swear to serve your country, by the best means or whatever, and so on. And you can interpret it as being a patriot means I have to do what I think is right for the people of that country. If you look at Edward Snowden, probably that is his reasoning.
That was this exact reason that Private Manning had said after he was sentenced to jail. He said, I don't want to go to jail, but if that's the price I have to pay to make the people aware of problems in my country, then I'm willing to pay it. And it might be a little bit pathetic, but...
I also have read reports that he showed some kind of remorse in the end, in terms of maybe to try to limit the jail sentence or so on, apologized basically.
he said. If he meant it in a good intention, by the way, seriously, I really respect his guts for what he did. If the good value like sort of overshadows the bad, I mean, if it's really necessary for people to know, then I think you should actually.
Okay, and you're exactly using the words that I'm happy to hear, because it's really about the intention when you do something. When you do something against the law, is it not? But he had good intentions. He didn't mean it. Really? Is that how we judge people? No, it's interesting. It's also for me.
That is a philosophical question.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Between basically the utilitarian or consequentialist school,
right,
looking at the results, then you see, okay, the result would be a security threat and so on, you know. Or you go by principle, Immanuel Kant, you know, like the categorical imperative, moral imperative, basically, that the intention matters.
right.
That your own reasoning matters more than what you believe is right or wrong to do. Whether the outcome is a positive one or a negative one is then irrelevant insofar that your intention is what the actions are measured by.
Means might be like quite bad,
Yeah.
but what really matters is the end. I mean, somebody has rightly said, end justifies the means. So at the end, I think it was basically for people to know, like sort of transparency.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have an issue with this, you know, the end justifies the means assumption.
Thank you. Yes.
Insofar that an end, you know, you have short-term ends, you have long-term ends.
Right.
It varies.
It is the end, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and it varies where, you know, where is the end.
Exactly.
I'm not sure whether what these people did benefits in the short term will benefit the world, or the
Right.
people of the world. I'm not sure about that. I think there's a higher chance that in the long term, if people start to digest what really is going on and so on, and make thoughts about it, there could be something constructive coming from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, I just wanted to say the ends justify the means is not always what I agree with, and I believe that more moral principles, and acting on behalf of principles would do good, and not on behalf of the outcomes always. And if you listen to Obama speech,
Yeah.
he is talking principles and moral values, you know, liberal values. If you listen to it, it is basically you listen to Immanuel Kant. He copies from that guy. He does it in a brilliant way. Is a fantastic orator. But the United States, for example, have this liberal cover, always emphasizing liberal values and so on, but actions divert from it in a significant way. And you can see that from how they deal with these leaks and so on.
Exactly.
And the thing again is, you know, this guy is a private. It is impossible for somebody of such a low rank to really understand how security policy of a nation functions. You know, like political science itself and international relations, how things work between statesmen and so on, is something impossible for the common man to understand. You need years of decades of studying it.
Especially in being a private in the army somewhere in Iraq where he was at that time. Yeah.
Right. And he just in that moment maybe thought it is the right thing to do. So, and he didn't really believe that.
Right, and then the question is also like, okay, he did something wrong, but giving like 35 years for espionage, for helping the enemy to gather data from the United States, because the enemy could have checked WikiLeaks, right? So
what they are doing.
right, so yeah, but do you agree like somehow that he had to be at least somehow sentenced, or that there had to be consequences? But I mean that the consequences are out of places, I think that's obvious. But he had to be somehow sentenced or put into place and said, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah, in order to maintain the system as it exists, the United States had to react or change the system. And well, it seems they decided to maintain the system they had, and thereby then showing consequences to such action.
You right now during the talk you always said like what the outcome is important, right? The intention. So he had a good intention, so you would not have sentenced him?
Well, though his means, the way was actually against the country,
Right.
but I felt like what he did at the end was of a good intention.
True.
He want the people to know what's going on, and though the question arises like it's about national security,
Right.
so I mean it's hard to actually I don't know how to put it.
I think, you know,
It's
this,
kind of
yeah, this, I mean, you can also argue about that intention. You know, Adolf Hitler might have had good intentions. See, in his own reasoning,
In his own reason.
he may have thought that is the only way.
A real world might work, or
yeah,
world might
Some-
be.
you know,
yeah.
but obviously, in that case, you would rather resort then to consequentialist thinking. And if you would have had a chance to get that guy from committing such horrible crimes,
Exactly.
everyone would have done it.
Right.
So, yeah, difficult.
Yeah. Difficult, right. So we might not come to a conclusion really regarding like how a government should handle those people, but apparently they have to do something, right? So then the other example that we have, that we already mentioned, was Edward Snowden. The government also tries to handle that issue, a little less successful though. What are your thoughts on like how Edward Snowden handled it himself by fleeing and by thinking about maybe he'll come back, and how the government tries to pressure other governments to actually hand him over?
did you
Yeah, you could say it is cowardice to flee and do it. You could have also done it and face the consequences if you really believe in it, and if you are worth, if you think it's worth sacrificing something for it. I also understand that a human being doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison or want to be executed. If we look at the diplomatic consequences, how the United States handles it on the state level, that I would say is a major faux pas. That is not okay. You cannot force planes of diplomats or statesmen of other countries to just land somewhere where they didn't want to.
Right.
You cannot use economic sanctions and pressures and so on to deal with such a matter, in my opinion. And, I don't know. Maybe the extent of what these leaks can mean in terms of security issues isn't really clear to me. But I see the United States is really, really obsessed, and I feel like even like too obsessed. Probably. Yeah.
Maybe it's also some kind of like, if you betray us, you have to suffer for that. Like, kind of like where the own honor is being hurt, like the ego.
That and deter future, deter things like that from happening in the future.
Right.
But I don't know. To be honest, I'm kind of disappointed. In the end, the things, the documents or the information was leaked. Now we have it. I'm disappointed of the fact that people seem to ignore them. The majority of the people doesn't care.
That was my final question actually, but yes. Right.
Yeah, and so why it's important also to talk about the instances when it happened and so on. I think it is even more important to focus on what we do with it. And I see no public outcry, no global public outcry for sure. Half of the world doesn't even care.
Yeah.
shallows down.
So how should we actually, maybe you have an idea also, how should we actually use those leaked data? Not, let's just keep to the side that it comes from a source like Edward Snowden, who might have done something bad regarding to his contract with the NSA person. But how should we use those data? I mean, if data is been leaked, we say, oh, the United States are doing something bad and spying on everyone. What should we do? How should people react?
Well, protest.
Yeah.
In any form, also in the modern social network world or so on, you know, the internet can be used as a tool. And I hope that it will show some effect in future elections. And because obviously, if we are talking about Europe too much, but statesmen in general and European statesmen, they know what's going on. They are aware about it, even if they claim they are not.
Yeah.
If they are not aware about it, then you shouldn't elect them because they're not doing their job.
Yes, I agree.
And so I hope that people will basically pay them back by changing their electoral votes in future elections.
What do you think? What should be done when something leaks? What should happen?
Well, I guess if that leaked document is something to do with your country, if that affects your country, then I guess it matters. But if it really doesn't affect or sort of inflict pain in your country, then my point of view is like, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, is it like, for just an example now, the WikiLeaks documents, they would state that the NSA spied on people around, like in the States, of course, but then also in, say, in Thailand, in Germany, but it would not mention Bhutan, for example. If you're going like, whatever. Yeah, people say it doesn't actually affect me right now, so.
Maybe like down the line, in the long run, if it does, I think you need to give a second thought.
Okay. And then what if it affects you, like,
I say Bhutan would probably be pretty lucky.
Yeah.
And
I'm quite sure that
literally,
the NSA agents.
I guess this is again where the media house comes in.
Right.
A good media house, and maybe they can segregate the documents in the sense like they can go through and like the one that affects, they can publish, like sort of give the information, but just sort of sensitize the public.
Got it. But then let's just say it affects your country. Like the NSA, the document leaks, they spied on the Bhutanese people. What should the people do? What would you tell the Americans now? Like everybody who's been like spied on by the NSA, everyone.
Yeah, since it's a very small country, we can't help it. So unless, like what my friend said, protest.
So yeah, and then how does it protest?
I've tried to read a little bit about how these programs work.
Yeah.
And how the software behind it works or whatever. And I didn't 90% I didn't understand. But the point is they have some kind of servers and they gather these all data of the country basically. And then they have a nice little software which is not difficult to handle, and you can like filter by criteria.
Yeah.
And you can basically, that was one example there, see, okay, Thailand, take Thailand,
or something.
and you say, who is talking in online chats Arabic? Right, you will get a list of people that use Arabic language,
right,
or English language, or so on. And that I feel is just like too much. That's like I know it's effective in preventing terrorism and so on, probably very effective method, but that goes so far like that you can filter people, narrow down to a certain type of person and so on, you know, that makes the individual vulnerable, every individual vulnerable. And if you then, do something that is not in line with what the central authority thinks is the right thing, they have the capability to, hurt you, hurt your life, hurt your well-being or whatever.
it's a 21st century world, everything was electronically, like online.
Right.
And even while, don't you think that while chatting or while you write email, everything, it's already public? I mean, how safe are we then?
Actually, you know, if I write an email, I expect that it is handled in a private way, that it is not, you know, for everyone accessible. Like when you write a letter and you post it, you expect that you expect that the mail delivery guy doesn't open that letter.
Just because it's possible doesn't mean it should be normal.
Right, because the mail delivery guy, he could open the letter anyway and read it. But I expect that they don't do that.
Yeah, your privacy should stay in place. That's then the question. I know it's not
But I mean, it is true that that it is very disclosed nowadays,
Yeah.
you know, and therefore it is then up to the individual also to take the responsibility of, you know, thinking about ahead of writing something. What kind of information am I giving? Yeah, be a little bit more careful with that kind of stuff.
Right, so then what I ask myself anyways when reading about the security agencies and monitor chatting emails and whatever, which terrorist in the world writes into his email, I'm gonna bomb something anyways. But that's just a different approach, different idea. Because when you look for those words like coup or bombing or assassination or whatever, I don't think that actually real terrorists would use that.
But then it's also telecommunication.
Yeah, no, sure, right, of course, but yeah. Maybe I watched too much 24 or something.
They have all code with.
Exactly.
Hey,
right.
can you bring me a Coke?
Right.
Or a Fanta?
Right. Because now I come back to something that you said earlier, you were disappointed by how the people react. I was disappointed by actually everything related to those tweets, like how easy it was for the people to actually read something. You know, growing up watching James Bond and stuff like that, it's like, come on, there must be something, it can't be that easy. Somebody just says, hey, I know something, let's just send it to my friend or to WikiLeaks.
Right,
I think you mentioned it, sorry, you mentioned in the beginning that you were, there was something similar, right? I think in the beginning you said.
what I've read, like a common explanation why there is an increase in such incidents now, is that the United States after 9/11 changed its security policy in terms of connecting agencies stronger with each other,
right.
Sharing information. That means if you share information between institutions, more people get hold of it, which then facilitates such legal incidents. However, it is shocking that a private can basically download all secret information the United States has.
Exactly.
I would like to be that private for a while.
Similar to Edward Snowden was a contractor for the NSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, so shocking how easy it is. You're like not related to WikiLeaks but to security. Like I think 2 days ago, the New York Times was down, the website was down, Twitter was briefly in trouble. Huge websites had trouble because apparently hackers from Syria they hacked those websites via security team in Australia. Again, it's for me as an ICT teacher actually, it's very shocking to see like how easy the access still seems to be, even because you mentioned in the 21st century that shouldn't be that easy. But it still happens, so I mean.
But still, then we know that once we're online, our details, everything is given there. It's already online. And don't you think like chatting is something personal, like of high security? Do you think it's a good idea to like do it online? And as you know, like the system itself is like whole world is going through.
Well, I'm asking you when I'm here, right, and I try to contact my family in Germany, and it's not a high security issue or anything, but I talk about personal stuff. I talk about stuff that you know, if everybody knows it, could weaken my position in society. You know? So, how should I do it? I can't just say, hey mom, we just meet at 7-Eleven and have a chat. I have to call her some way, either by phone or by Skype, some kind of
And
chat.
that is like we as a university student, just as a general, but what about like those bureaucrats, like official officers, especially military officers?
Right, but also you have to communicate by common ways of communication. You cannot just meet every time, They are not like all in one building, right? It's impossible.
Again, I agree with the point, like everything's online, but that should be a good thing, not a bad thing. It should benefit us and shouldn't scare us. So I agree on that point that like when I use this technology to communicate with my friends, my family, whatever, then I should feel secure. Even though yes, it's online, yes, it might be possible, but I shouldn't fear it or shouldn't have to fear it. I think. But you're more on the way like, hey, it's all online anyways, you should be aware of what you're saying, and if you prevent crime that way, that's fine.
What we sorry.
No, okay.
What we haven't discussed at all yet is that it is a debate basically between liberty and security.
Exactly, yeah, right.
It's
That was
like just ongoing. It always has been there.
right, and now I'll give you a push to that. I think it looks like you have two different ideas, like at least a little bit different. I mean, you agree many times, but I think in this approach, it might be a little bit different.
Okay.
So,
You first or you first?
You go first.
Yeah, I will say something very polarizing. Of course, if I go to a big city, I want it to be secure. I don't want to become a victim of a terrorist attack or anything like
right.
that. However, I believe equally important is to protect our rights and freedoms.
Mhm.
These principles that were formulated in the most virtuous documents of all time.
Yeah.
Why would we have written them if we don't abide to them at all? Therefore, I believe probably sometimes you have to sacrifice a bit more security in order to enjoy the liberty and the rights and the freedoms we have. Obviously, 9/11 was a horrible incident and many innocent people died. But you cannot prevent such things from happening eternally and overall anyway. And just being obsessed and trying to do so by, tightening security measures, tightening surveillance, intrusion into privacy and so on, will not make such things disappear forever. And I believe rights and freedoms are as valuable as human lives. And that's the polarizing thing I say.
And for you.
Yeah, I think this time I agree with you.
Oh no!
And well, I'm still wondering, like, okay, getting back to you again, sorry. When you said after 9/11, the incident, it was a huge incident. So lessons need to be learned. Lessons learned from that.
And what's the lesson? Tightening security.
Tightening security.
That is the short-term lesson.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be like the lesson at least. So,
yesterday I talked to a friend about also this issue, and he basically said, I don't care whether a company in the United States has my personal data, for their advertising or whatever they want to do.
yeah.
For me, it is more important to be safe when I go out. Right? But I kind of disagree, because first of all, okay, a company having your credit card data and adjusting their marketing plan by or whatever will not necessarily hurt you in an essential way. But if this information is leaked to some company, it can also be leaked to people with bad intentions. And that is something concerning. So I rather say, okay, I don't enjoy accident security,
Yeah.
but I enjoy freedom and rights. But what is a life worth if you secure but you're not free anymore?
But then, yeah, right. And also the question is, I mean, it might be a stupid question, but the security we're talking about right now is that being secure from terrorist attacks or something like that. That's why it's finance. But still, I mean, there's so many things that could happen to you while you walk to 7-Eleven or something. So to make that more secure, just to add like one more point to the whole discussion. So the first time I went to Kuala Lumpur, there are cameras everywhere. Like, so they really know, like, I felt like a TV star. There are like cameras like everywhere you go,
So
everywhere. So
you're actually under scrutiny.
so they actually they make sure that you are secure. So then, like, good thing. I mean, for you, of course not. But what would you say to that? Like, it's just one step more, right? Not only listening to what you are communicating, actually watching you where you're going.
Well, since I come from a country which is like more smooth and peaceful, what you said, I feel like it's really nice to have that like, under security.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I, as an educated person, I feel like what Jonathan said is correct. Like not absolute security, but we kind of mix a little freedom there.
A little freedom, a lot of security, a little freedom. yeah, I mean, we probably aren't able to figure out like what's the right way, because there isn't one right way. But I mean, so it's interesting to see like those different approaches and how we feel about that. For example, now to come back where we started, when we started about Thailand, the bikini sector in Thailand. How do you feel about like here in Thailand, being secure and safe and not when you walk at night to some bar, but I mean, I think. In general.
Well, except for traffic, other than that, everything's smooth.
Right. I have to say, my experience here, before I came, I thought, alright, it's a developing country, crime rates may be higher, accident rates might be higher, stuff like that, so there is some kind of increased danger. But my whole experience here until now always was really secure. I never felt like afraid walking around alone outside or anything.
Right. Except when
but I would say that depends on individual experience.
Right.
However, I'm more careful than I would be at home. For sure.
No, but I didn't want to actually go like to the point where you walk around alone in some streets, but because there was a report some time ago, I think we mentioned in class at least, that states that Thailand is like one of the, I think, 2 or 3 countries that are most likely to have terrorist attacks happening.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's
because of the situation in the south, obviously.
Yeah, because it's relatively easy to come in and go out, and so many different borders.
Organized crime and so on is really has a good network.
Yes, a good network. Yes, right.
And because there are attractive targets in Bangkok, obviously.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, sometimes, to be honest, sometimes, for example, being on the BTS train and so on, thoughts come to your mind.
I mean, now the BTS goes into like Central World or something.
Yeah, because it looks like a really attractive target for terrorist attacks.
But then on the other hand, what I think to myself, why should those people attack something here where that's the place where they can meet? So
strange. And that incident we talked about in one of the earlier hangouts,
right,
with these Hezbollah guys and so on, really was inconsistently reported, didn't really make sense to me at all what this is about and so on. So I didn't really take it as a serious report of terrorism or anything.
But now we're drifting away to general security and something. I think that might be again a different hangout sometime in the future. But I mean, those thoughts come up in talking about security issues and privacy. Let's just come back before we wrap it up to the beginning. What can we take away? What do we take away? How will we handle everything in the future? What will you do? Will you change something? Will you try to educate your friends? Will you tell your friends don't protest or don't use the internet? Or what are you going to do? Or what should you do?
So I think in this case we do not really do anything right now, but rather to caution or friend.
So you're not doing anything.
Like that's the least you can do actually. Like
Yeah.
caution your friend.
Yeah.
And I guess more sensitized, so to say. Sensitized and be alert.
What does it mean? Like more cautious or sensitized? Like, how will it affect you actually? What are you going to change? Or you just say, hey, my friend, be aware, but actually you just go on with your life as you did before.
But I guess it's for them to like. I mean, you cannot really push him or her
No,
to like
of course,
take the plans.
But your behavior, your personal behavior, something will change.
Like, I think that's for sure.
Okay.
Like your thinking and when it comes to like security and everything, I can see like a little bit of changes. Changes there always.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like mentally, when you go out, like for instance abroad,
Yeah.
you might be really careful like by using internet and giving the personal details, like secret documents. Yeah,
Don't be secret documents too easily, just to people you trust, right?
I guess so.
That's a good idea.
Think. Think, listen to different accounts, analyze, think, and then when you arrive at
Conclusion.
the conclusion, and do your own reasoning, do something, not just understand it, feel like you understand it, and don't do anything. That means then protest. For example, with a lot of protest movements, I believe people didn't think enough before they started to protest.
I agree, especially
If you go to
but also the entire thing.
if you go to public protest often and you would just interview random people,
Why are you here?
why are you here?
Yeah.
The answers are so simplistic.
Right.
Are we against this, that, and this?
Right.
But why are you against it? Give me your reasoning.
Right.
Of course, mostly the center of the people that create the protest and so on,
Yeah.
they really made their thoughts about it. They have their own reasoning and so on,
Right.
and they really believe in something. So that is a really good thing to do that. However, whenever these protests become like popular protests,
And they sell masks and shirts for that.
then it is kind of like, often I feel it loses its meaning
I
by
agree.
gaining its mass.
Yeah, I agree.
But think first, try to understand the world as good as you can. You will never understand it completely anyway. As good as you can, and then do what you believe in. Based on your reasoning, not on your impulses.
I like that approach, and it would be an awesome last word, but I forgot to mention something that I like, that's a nice thing, for at least for me when I heard it. And I learned it in a movie, which is stupid, of course, but it's the only thing that was positive or was good to take away from the really bad movie with Brad Pitt, by the way. And I hope we can get it together, and it's actually based on true facts, at least the idea. And I think when we mentioned it was in Israel, like back then, and there was always this principle of the elder people, like 10 wise men. They were sitting when they had the meetings, and then they decided about what would be good for their city, for their country. That at least one of them, number 10, was number 9, he had to be against them and had to take the stand for the least logical thing, for this logical topic, and had to argue for it and research for it. And try to make it sound plausible so that people start to think about that. And I like that approach
It's
actually.
very good.
Even if there's something you say, no, that's wrong. Try to understand where it comes from, or why people do that, or why people think about that, and then you might be more able to understand.
That is very, very good. That is actually because it just basically shifts what you should do in your own conscience, what the dialogue between yourself, critical thinking, reflecting on your own opinion approach all the time, by looking at other argumentation and thinking about it and so on. It just shifts that outside your own brain into a group of people,
Exactly.
which is a very productive approach, yes.
Right.
Okay, just a teensy question actually.
Yes.
Not exact question, but curious right now. Since you mentioned at the beginning, like the government, secret documents about Thailand is already out.
Yeah.
So how is the Thailand government reacting? And what's next?
I had the chance to monitor it today. the first thing I'm going to do when I go back to check if something happened or if they have a statement regarding that. I don't know, I read it like last night or this morning at like 2 AM or something. So I'm really curious to see how people will react to that, if it will be shared in the news or if they will just keep quiet. What? No.
Keeping quiet stuff often works the best for governments.
And I think they're going to try that. I'm quite
They're
sure
gonna try,
that's
yeah.
what we're going to try here. But yeah, there are enough Western media here actually, or media with Western influence. So let's see what happens. I haven't seen anything today, but I'm very curious as well, and it will be interesting to see if they try to do something.
Thailand.
Perfect final word. It was last chance to say anything, but I like your think approach anyways. So that's what people should do. Famous last words.
Be cautious.
Be cautious. So with these words, thank you very much. I hope we will see more people here than next week when we start to actually broadcast international. I'm sure that there will be more people joining. And yeah, thanks for joining. And then we will see each other again soon. Thank you.